Hey friends, I'm Adam, and we are continuing this series called How to Friendship. Why? Because we want you to be the very best friends that you can be. And we believe that if that's the case, then you're gonna have the best friendships, not just now, but forever in your life. Now, friendships is kind of a difficult topic. Like, it's easy to be a bad friend, and it's way more difficult sometimes to be a really good one. And I think you're gonna find that out today with the topic that we're talking about. And I just hope you're ready to go because I think it's gonna be a really helpful thing for your future. So, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna keep it so simple. I'm gonna talk about two different stories from my personal life, the lessons that I've learned from that, and how those things, whether I knew it a lot or not, always aligned with Scripture, with what God has to say about our friendships. So, everybody hold up a number one. You ready for this? Story number one. Here it goes. I was a part of a really great group of guys a few years back. I was just a little older than you, and they were kind of like my small group. Just like you guys have every time you come to church, you get to be with your group. Well, this was my group. And man, we had so much fun. We had an awesome group. But there was also times where we just had to be there for one another. One of those times, my buddy had broken up with his girlfriend and he was sad. Everybody say, "Aw." And while you're saying, "Aw," I need to tell you, actually, she broke up with him, so it was really kind of ugly, but whatever, doesn't matter. Okay, she breaks up with him. We're trying to make him feel better about life. We're trying to be encouraging and supportive and all the junk you're supposed to do when people break up. But at some point during our conversation with him, just trying to make him feel better, we kind of left that like encouraging road and we sort of take a detour over towards Mean Street where we started more or less trashing this girl. We were saying some stuff that just wasn't very kind. And one of my friends from the group had been really quiet, but at a moment of quiet, he spoke up and he said, "Hey guys, I don't think we should be saying this kind of stuff about that girl. I actually don't think we should be saying that kind of stuff about anybody." Ooh. That takes the air out of a room when you get called out right to your face, right? Maybe you've experienced that before, and we had a decision to make. But it didn't take very long, just a couple of seconds, and it felt like we all just kind of got it. It was like, you know what, dude? Yeah, you're right. We probably shouldn't speak that way. And that one comment by that brave dude changed the whole dialogue that we were having. We went a totally different direction. We just got back to supporting our guy through it all. It changed us in a little way that maybe had bigger impact later on. All right, hold up a number two. Story number two. I had known this girl for a long time, and one of my buddies started dating her. One day, he came to me. A Christian dude came to a Christian dude. We were both Christians, you getting it? And he confided in me some things that were going on in the relationship. And let me just say that those were not the kind of things that should be happening in a Christ-centered relationship. And he said, "So what do you think? What should I do?" And I didn't think long because I kind of knew what I had to tell him. I said, "Man, it seems to me you don't really have much of an option. Like, this relationship is pretty clearly dragging you away from God. And if that's the case, I think you need to put it on pause. I think you probably need to spend some time apart so that you can get back on the right track with God." Now, that is not an easy thing for me to say. It was not an easy thing for him to hear. And do you want to take a vote on which direction he went? Did he listen? Did he not listen? Oh, he didn't listen at all. He did not like my advice at all, even though I really felt like that's what God wanted me to say in the moment. The heartbreaking thing is that when that relationship inevitably ended, it wasn't just sad. It wasn't just like, "Oh, bummer, you broke up." No, it actually had some really life-changing, devastating ripple effects that took him years to come back from. You guys, here's the story with those two stories. I learned in that season of life when I was a part of this awesome group, man. Christ-centered friends challenge each other. Can you just say that with me? Christ-centered friends challenge each other. It's not easy to do all the time. It's really difficult. In fact, if you think back to that first story, man, we all felt a little bit awkward when my buddy spoke up and said, hey, don't say those things about a girl. But here's the truth that I knew from the book of Proverbs in the Bible, chapter 27, verse 6. It says this, wounds from a sincere friend are better than many kisses from an enemy. Wounds from a sincere friend? Yeah. Sometimes your friends talk a certain way to you. They push you, they challenge you. It was like getting flicked in the back of the head when he called me out. But you know what? It was better than somebody just agreeing with me and letting me continue to go down a toxic road. I knew he cared about me and that group, and he was calling us to do something that was better. By challenging us, he was helping us be Christ-centered difference makers in that moment. When you think of that second story, man, I did not want to have that conversation with my buddy. Not at all. But he gave me an opening. He asked my opinion. And I knew as a Christian, Galatians chapter 6, verse 1, as clear as day, it says, dear brothers and sisters, if another believer is overcome by some sin, you who are godly should gently and humbly help that person back onto the right path. You guys, I knew that and I tried that because I knew that Christ-centered friends challenge each other. And it wasn't up to me how that story ended. It was up to God. I just had to do what I knew was right because I truly believed that's what God wanted me to do in that moment because of what Galatians tells us. You guys, Christ-centered friends challenge each other. Now, maybe you're sitting there today, you're like, sure, whatever, man. That is so hard. How do I even start? Can I just give you like 3 super easy ways to know if you're ready to do that? First and foremost, these are gonna come up on the screen so you can take a picture. First and foremost, will you just ask God for help? Man, ask God for an opportunity to speak a challenge into someone's life. Whether it's about just getting better, walking more closely with him, or maybe it's about just like, dude, you gotta get out of this sin that you're in. Whatever it is, ask God to help you with that. Number 2, check your own heart. If you check your own heart, you're gonna look at your motives. If you just wanna feel like you're better than someone, dude, hang back. Don't call out somebody else when you know you're just trying to feel better than they are. But if your heart is pure and you're like, man, I want the best for this person, and consider challenging them in whatever way God is leading you. And number 3, you gotta look in the mirror. If someone came to you with the exact same challenge that you're going to someone else with, how would you respond? Would you take that challenge? Would you take it to heart? Would that impact your life? Or would you resist it and push it away? Man, if you're someone who would resist it, maybe hang back and don't make that challenge yet. But those are 3 really easy ways to know, like, I know it's time. If God gives me an opportunity, if my motives are pure, and if I'm the kind of person who would take a challenge, dude, then you're probably ready to give one too. I can tell you this, I know from that season of life, that group of guys, Christ-centered friends, challenge each other. We get better. And you guys, it's not just us. Like, I grew more than ever in my whole life in that season with those guys. I became a better friend, absolutely. But we became better Christ followers together in that season. And I can tell you that 3/4 of that group of guys went on to serve God in some way in a church or as a missionary. They are making an impact to tens of thousands of people today because of the growth that happened in a season of their life. And when we start to take that seriously, when we start to challenge one another, especially when we're Christians, dude, the world's gonna change around us. We're gonna grow. Our neighborhoods, our communities, our teams, our schools, they're gonna start to change for the better because that is what happens when Christ-centered difference makers live like it. So today, you wanna be a better friend? Yeah. It's not just about agreeing with your friends. It's not just about gassing them up all the time. There is a time to give them a challenge, to step up to what God has for them. And I truly believe if you do that, you will change your world.